All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back again to EMPM. That stands for Engineering Major, Philosophy Minor. And this is the channel where you can get a working aerospace engineer's opinions on topics pertaining to engineering, philosophy, politics, and various other social and cultural issues. Hope you guys are having a great Sunday. It is 11/21/2021. The time is about 5:29 p.m. And of course, the Thanksgiving holiday is coming up next week. And so I hope you guys are excited for that. I personally am very excited for that. I was invited to one of my coworkers' houses to celebrate Thanksgiving with him and his wife. Him and his wife are about to have their first kid. I'm really happy for him. And of course, I can't say how grateful I am for him inviting me to his home to share this holiday with them. And I hope that you guys are going to have the opportunity to spend a lot of good time with friends and family, if not on Thanksgiving itself, on the weekend surrounding that, and so on and so forth. So guys, let's get into the topic of today. And this has to do with an event that happened last week, which I think is an incredibly important indication of where our country is in terms of foundational principles, in terms of, your and my rights. I think what happened was an excellent point to clarify what our rights are. And this, of course, is the acquittal of Kyle Rittenhouse on all charges. He was found not guilty by the jury. And there were plenty of other things happening in the trial that could have led to a mistrial or even a mistrial with prejudice. There could have been other legal considerations, especially with the fact that an MSNBC reporter was what I would call aggressively tailing the jury, running red lights, breaking laws in order to do this. Someone was caught filming the jury. There was constantly, there were overt threats and even actual protesters outside, the building, demanding a certain outcome. And I think that a couple of these protests post-outcome have unfortunately become violent. So the reason why I'm making this video, I just want to give an honest and genuine thank you and show my gratitude to the jury in this trial, because this was a challenging decision, I think, for them. I made a video a few days ago, or maybe it was last week, about how I did jury duty. And when I did jury duty, it seemed like the case was clear cut. And then bias crept into the jury, which we try very hard to avoid, but unfortunately it sometimes happens. And in that case, the trial didn't go at least the way that I thought it should have gone. Okay, but still it demonstrates that our justice system in the United States is very thorough. It's very fair. It really does give the opportunity for every single perspective to be looked at, to be heard, to be understood by the jury, and then to ultimately be decided by the people, right? Because the jury aren't like special people that were, picked out by the Biden administration. You know what I mean? And thankfully, that's not the case. The jury really is meant to be a good enough reflection of what the people actually believe in response to the event in question. And it's supposed to be an opportunity for the state basically to adjudicate the trial, to adjudicate's maybe not the right word, to facilitate the trial. The state facilitates the organization of all this and puts in place processes that ensures that the jury can make a well-informed decision, as informed as they could possibly be, and so that it's a fair decision. And I think that this trial really took a lot of courage for them to say not guilty. And I really mean that, and I commend them for that, because right now we have one side of the political aisle who really loathes the idea of the Second Amendment, who seems to be equating, someone with white skin with systemic oppression, racial intolerance, gender-based intolerance, and fear of of Donald Trump or fear of COVID. There's a group of people that is willing to do violence, not only to other everyday citizens, to commit arson, to break windows, to steal items from stores, to harm police officers, to completely disobey the law, and intentionally harm the jury. You know, there's a group of people out there who think that Kyle Rittenhouse is the embodiment of evil. He's the enemy. He's the symbol of, white supremacy and racial hatred and, wanton mass shootings and stuff like that. And they want to see him. They want to see him dead. And the problem is that they pick an enemy. Okay. And then when the enemy isn't out in society doing all the bad things that they see, they have to justify to themselves, okay, why is all this bad stuff still happening when the enemy can't do anything right now? Oh, it must be because all the people associated with the enemy are just as bad, and they're the ones wrecking the life. They're the ones wrecking society and sabotaging everything. This is the mentality of people in fear. And when the jury makes a decision like this, what they see is, well, this is just another example of the system, oppressing me. And so, they guarantee you they want to do violence to these people. Okay. So let me go ahead and take a step back. Because of the fact that, the word racist and white supremacy and fascist and Hitler and all these terms, they've been used to describe so many different things that they don't actually mean what they originally meant anymore. They've been used as a slander against so many people that they don't mean anything anymore. So to the leftist mob, this is just, the trial is just another white supremacist gets off the hook. That's how they look at it. And because everything is white supremacist, even though they're willing to do violence, which is awful, it doesn't have this deep foundational philosophical lens like it does for the other side, like it does for conservatives. Okay, so now this is the other reason why I want to thank the jury so much, because what the leftist mob doesn't understand is that this was actually a verdict for their rights too. Okay? From the conservative perspective, this was really about a deep philosophical tenet of our society. Do you have the right to defend yourself in a violent situation where people are coming after you? Are you justified in using force in self-defense? Okay, people think that the Second Amendment is just about guns, but the Second Amendment doesn't say I have the right to have guns. It says I have the right to keep and bear arms. And what that really means is arms could literally be my arms, right? If somebody is aggressing against me, I have the right to keep and bear a means to protect myself. That could be me learning martial arts. That could be me having a knife. That could be me having a gun, pepper spray, whatever. I have the right to defend myself if someone is aggressing against me with what I perceive to be deadly force. I have the right to use deadly force against them. And Kyle Rittenhouse, when he testified, he said something in the trial that was incredibly important, not only for him legally, but for all of us legally, but just in general is a very smart way to characterize the situation that he was in. He said something to the effect of, I shot until I ended the threat. Okay? Now, this has been talked about on the Michael Knowles show, but I can tell you when I first heard that approach to answering questions of when you are and are not allowed to use deadly force, this was before Michael Knowles mentioned it. And I learned about this in a concealed carry class, actually. So in Utah is in a constitutional carry state, meaning you can open carry and you can conceal carry without a permit. Now that went into an effect in, I think, like late May of this year. This was shortly after I moved here to Utah. And it went into effect actually before I went to the concealed carry class. So I went to the concealed carry class because I wanted to learn more. I wanted to have the permit just because I wanted to show that I have knowledge. Because if you're in a situation where law enforcement stops you, you know, you're going to want to make sure you have your ducks in a row, right? I mean, that's just common sense. Now, officers out here assume that there's going to be a firearm somewhere. And so to them, it's not like as immediately threatening to just like pull someone over because they know what the situation is going to be. Anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent. Kyle says, I shot until the threat was ended, until I did not perceive a threat. And that's so important because when you perceive a threat, you are allowed to defend yourself. Okay. Now, in the court of law, it has to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt that there was, in fact, the threat present with which you were allowed to use or permitted to use deadly force in order to stop that threat. Now, what I really should say rather than deadly force is just force, because you're permitted to use force to end a threat. Now, if somebody dies in the process of you defending yourself, okay, you are still justified in that usage of force. And this is a core foundational principle of the Second Amendment and also of how we are to behave in society in the United States of America. Okay? And what the leftist mob needs to realize is that right is extended to them too. Okay? So people keep talking about, well, what if it had been this race, and what if this person had been that race, and what if blah, blah, blah. The whole point of our justice system today, the way that we have constructed it and molded it and changed the architecture and, you know, progressed along mistake after mistake, but correcting it, not going backward, etc., is so that whatever the race, whatever the gender, whatever, it would be completely irrelevant. Okay? Kyle Rittenhouse could have been a black trans person, right? The people that the left claims are the most oppressed. The justice system would have gone the exact same way, and that person would have been found not guilty too. And that's why this trial, for those of us on the conservative side, we realize that this is about a very important foundational philosophical element of our society and of our country in the United States. Okay? So when the leftists, they, you know, say that they want to go out and riot and cause problems again and get violent, look, let's say a leftist gets in a violent altercation and there's video of it and somebody dies, but we look at the video and we see that the leftist was acting in self-defense. Not guilty, right? The same standard will be applied to them. Okay? Now the left, they don't want to play that game though. They want to say the standard needs to be what's convenient for me right now. The standard needs to be whatever I think is politically expedient or just whatever, you know, culturally unacceptable to me right now. It doesn't have to be universal. It doesn't have to apply to everybody. It doesn't have to agree with the founding principles of our country. It just needs to be whatever pleases me right now. Okay? Now, it might please you right now. If Rittenhouse was found guilty, it would please them, right? Until they got put in the same situation where the mob turned on them and they had to defend themselves. But we set the precedence that self-defense isn't acceptable. That it doesn't matter who is aggressing against you, how intensely they're aggressing against you. You have the duty not to defend yourself. You have the duty to wait for the mob to get to you and see what happens. Okay? And if you look at it from, you know, their own Marxist perspective, what they would say is, well, what I think they'd say is, oh, well, the mob would get to me and just shout at me, right? Because I'm one of them, you know, like I'm fighting for the people. I'm standing up. And so, the likelihood that they would actually hurt me, even though they're running at me screaming that they're going to kill me, they don't really mean that. I mean, until you end up in the gulag along with the rest of us. I don't want to make this video super long, so I'm going to close here in just a second. I just want to emphasize again, thank you very much to the jury, okay? Because from the conservative side, what the jury did was step up and stand for freedom, stand for conservative principles, stand for the right to defend yourself, and stand for the situations where it is appropriate to use force in order to stop threats or escape threats. And because they stood up and said, I might face violence for this verdict. I might face attacks from this verdict. I might get death threats. I might have people show up at my house. I want to uphold these principles and these values for everyone. That includes the people who might seek to do violence against me. That includes my political enemies at this moment. And I think that that's really powerful within our country and really important in this cultural schism that we're in between two sides. That, it's a small, it seems like a small battle, but I think that it sends a really important message that everyone in this country has the right to defend themselves. All right. And I just want to say one last thing. If you guys think that Kyle Rittenhouse isn't going to be punished in any way just because he got off, you are mistaken. I'll ask you guys this. Where's he going to go to school? Everyone knows who he is, and 50% of the people who know who he is want him dead. They wanted him in jail. They think that he's a white supremacist. They think that he went out with intent to just execute people. They don't know the real facts. They don't care. Even though we're affording those people who want that of Kyle Rittenhouse, we're affording them all the same rights that we have. They don't want that for Kyle. How's he going to go to school? How's he going to go to the mall? I don't know if he's had a girlfriend yet. He's 17. How's he going to get a girlfriend? Honestly, where's he going to take her? Everywhere he goes. And he's going to be known, his pictures, everyone knows who he is. Okay, his life is still going to change. He's just not going to be literally behind bars. So my hope is that he goes into some kind of witness protection program or something like that. But even then, I mean, that can be jail in and of itself. He's going to have to go around wearing a baseball hat and sunglasses and, trying to conceal his identity probably for at least the next 10 years. So Rittenhouse is going to, he will pay a debt to society. Even though he was found in the court of law not guilty, he will pay a debt. And I got to be thankful to Kyle for that too, because when you're in an intense situation, you're probably not thinking that far ahead, right? He said it himself. I needed to end the threat. The threat was in that moment. Okay? Now, maybe if you could go back and you had 17 minutes or 20 minutes like I do to just deliberate on this philosophically, maybe you wouldn't have pulled the trigger or something like that. But anyway, he's going to get punished. The jury might even get punished too. And so I respect them a lot for standing up and making a decision that I think is reflective of everyone's rights, not just something politically expedient in the moment. So that's all I got to say for this one, guys. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys in the next one. Later.